Let's talk about the frontier markets because, of course, you know, they are seen as being fairly high risk. But even so, you should take a look at the fund inflows we've seen for some of these markets this year. They're smaller, they're more illiquid, of course, over emerging markets. But over the course of the year, the MSCI Frontier Markets Index has surged around about 13%. And according to EPFR, over $2 billion worth of funds have flowed into frontier markets just this year alone. Douglas Clayton, the CEO of Leopard Capital, good friend of ours here on the program. We talk a lot about frontier markets with you, Douglas. It's good to see you again. Good to have you back. Anything changed since the last time we spoke? Because clearly there's been a bit of a shift in sentiment, you know, when it comes to the risk profile of investors out there. And we're seeing much more money coming into some of these plays.
The frontier markets are still, I think, the most exciting investment opportunity in the world. We're very bullish right now on the Mekong region, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. There's a lot going on there. The GDPs of these countries are going to double over the next decade, and it's a good opportunity for investors to play that.
You can't get away from the risks, though, Douglas. You know, we have spoken about this before, but investing in some of these markets, not only do you have regulatory, political risk in terms of investing, uncertainty, lack of transparency, you also have very illiquid, underdeveloped markets in numerous cases. How do you get past that? I mean, I know that you're, I guess, approaching the investment case from a private equity side of the equation. But for investors out there that might just want to invest in a stock, you know, is the risk going to be worth the reward? Is this really a 10-year investment strategy, I guess you could say?
We think private equity is an excellent way to play frontier markets because it allows you to have more control over those risks, to work closely with companies and guide them to grow and capitalize on the economic trends. But if you want to come to the stock market, I can recommend one stock, EDL Generation Company in Laos. This company's on a P of under 10 with 43% earnings growth and a dividend yield of 7%. It doesn't get better than that.
You know, Douglas, I'm a little bit curious. In your notes, say you're focusing on the Mekong sub-region and lumped Thailand into the trio of Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Is that considered a frontier market? I would have presumed the smart capital markets in Thailand are much more developed and much deeper.
We see the opportunity in Thailand in terms of cross-border investment. The industries in Thailand are ready to go into their neighboring countries. They have the expertise and the management. And we're going to see a lot more cross-border investment in trade, especially with the ASEAN economic community developing over the next 2 years.
Okay, so the way to play these up-and-coming frontier countries is through some of the corporations in Thailand. I get that. But in terms of private equity deals on the ground, how difficult is the due diligence process in some of these countries? Well, it's very difficult to get your hands on some information.
Well, there's good companies in each of these countries. They may not be well known, but in every economy you can find good companies. There's service providers. So due diligence isn't our biggest worry. The hardest thing is really the execution, getting adequate human resources into those companies. But the opportunity makes it all worth it.
Douglas, we had, of course, you know, a lineup of guests coming out through from Myanmar over the course of last week, over programming during last week. And all of the CEOs that we spoke to were hugely optimistic about growth in that particular country. And we're, I guess, a lot less concerned about the potential for, I guess, sudden political change than we have been in the past. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think there's a consensus within Myanmar that the country is going to catch up to the region. I don't think there's anybody that's standing in the way of reform. Again, the hardest thing there is really the execution risks rather than the macro environment or the regulatory environment. But remember, back in the 1980s, people said the same things about investing in China, but it turned out to be a very wise thing to do, to take a long-term view and participate.
Yeah, okay. All right, Douglas, great to have you with us as always. Thank you so much for joining us. Douglas Clayton from Leopard Capital with us there.